What's good, you too? Hopefully, you guys are doing blessed. We're in the World Cup edition right now. All right, I've got the only important jersey that matters on right now. We got Barcelona winning either way, which we love to see. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and tap into what we were looking for last week and what we can see coming into the market for this coming week as well. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and tap into dollar. Right, so dollar was obviously the first thing that we were looking for. So let's go ahead and see where we started talking about dollar here. Should be right here, right? So one of the things that we spoke about for dollar was, essentially the way that the low last week had been created, which we saw here, which was essentially seeing this sweep down here on liquidity that went ahead and barely just took out that level. Obviously, we have been talking about the potential for dollar sells from the weeks before, only for a short term, really. We did end up changing our outlook for the week on Tuesday, for those of you guys that go live with us there, which was we were expecting dollar to come lower, and we're going to go ahead and talk why here in a minute. But yeah, last week we did actually see the zone that we spoke about get hit pretty much perfectly. So we spoke about this level, which we're going to draw up here. Let's see where we have it right here, right? So we spoke about this zone to go ahead and look for longs, right? To go ahead and create a new high in dollar. We did see a beautiful reaction from that level, so I think we have the exact position there, right? So that was the zone that we were looking at. When we look at the way that dollar really played out, all right, we do see how the market pretty much beautifully gave us that, right? So started off with a gap up, right? Traded right back into the level that we were talking about before then, creating a new high here. And this high here was really what had us, shifting from one side to another when it came to looking for the buys and the sells for the week. So on Tuesday, when we got onto the charts, we noticed the way how some of these candles closed, right? So when we did have the zone get hit that we were talking about for potential longs, we had a really fast move to the upside from here to here, just barely targeting this level before we actually started to see trap candles and things like that start to form. And we actually saw a break in the order flow, right? So this became our new point of order flow once we created a new high. And we saw how the market went ahead and broke below this level, and also created relatively equal lows of what we were seeing here. So from that moment forward on the Tuesday, right, we were looking for these shorts to pretty much start to play out, which obviously did end up happening pretty nicely. And not just that on the 4 hour, but when we look here on the daily, beautiful institutional candle that played out there. So we kind of have this first, second, and third points of manipulation on the daily time frame, giving us the idea that most likely we would be starting to head towards this level in that next candle. And as we can see, we ended up creating just a little top wick in the next day and getting us back down into the area of imbalance we've been talking about for weeks here on Wyckoff Sundays, right? So for weeks, we've really been talking about price just pulling back, and all we're really waiting for is just for a moment of reaccumulation to see when we can get that next long towards 102, right? And I still think we're in that same scenario here with dollar. But yeah, now we've actually gone ahead and after getting the buy, reaching down towards those imbalanced areas. So we're going to talk about later on what we can see with dollar, but that's pretty much what went down last week. So there's really opportunities in both directions. First was the long there, and after we went ahead and saw that daily candle close on Monday, I think after Tuesday it was pretty much a no-brainer to look for those shorts, and the week did end up bearish. All right, so now let's go ahead and talk about the currency side of this. So we were talking about a couple of main scenarios for currency. So for Euro USD, we spoke about the potential for more selling, right, in general, right? So to go ahead and see that if dollar were to go ahead and long, then obviously we'd probably see at least a new low on, Euro USD. This is the main area that we spoke about. So there was an area of liquidity here that we spoke about initially. So we'll go ahead and show that. Whoops, we got two highs are very close together, right? This one here as well. So personally, what I would like to look at is more just ignore these highs and just look at this high here. I'd like to see Euro USD drive above there and then go ahead and give the drive down, right? I think so. This right here was the idea for Wyckoff Sundays, to actually get price to get above that area of liquidity and reach back down towards new lows, right? And essentially that is what we got, right? So we end up seeing how right here on the Monday, right, these highs right here ended up, we saw price driving above those levels and creating that new lower low, right? And just like with dollar, obviously when we did create that low, we did end up creating some pretty good manipulation candles. This was a very fast move down when we look at the daily as well, right? Very fast move down. So again, same way that we flipped with dollar, we also flipped with Euro USD. And the other idea that we were looking at was to see at least one more high here potentially also happen. So we said if not there, then we'd be looking for this next level.
Then again, I think this is going to be where we're going to go ahead and look for it again. But either way, I do think that this is now becoming worth it because of the way that price action went ahead and created that low on dollar and created this high here on Euro USD. There is some potential for, rather than having the sweep, that we rather just follow order flow, because we did take out a good amount of dollar buyers with that sweep of the low, right? Because July 3rd and retest, and I think
so. Yeah, so basically, again, we were saying the most likely scenario was we would get a reaction from that level, we would get a new low there, but then price ended up afterwards, after getting that reaction, starting to show its hand, giving those daily time frame institutional candles, giving the 4-hour down moves as well that are just barely sweeping below lows, and overall still holding the order flow that we see, right? Because this is the low that creates the high. All we really did was pull back and get back into that level, right? And we'll talk about what we can see for the coming week later on, all right? But yeah, that was the idea there with dollar. And then obviously the other scenario that we spoke about was here, the daily, or sorry, the 4-hour imbalance that was set up there for a potential long area if this one didn't hold up, which is obviously, what we've seen so far. So let's continue in with the rest of them. So Euro USD was the one that we said if we were going to see the sweep on dollar, that AUD USD would be the one that we would want to use because of this area over here, right? So really just looking at this daily pullback, we just wanted to see AUD USD pull back into there and then start to give a sell-off. So far we have gotten that pretty nicely. But this, I think, is going to be something we're going to more so follow up on this coming week, which again we'll talk about later on. But that was what we spoke about, right? At least getting up into that level before then selling off. And then we have NZD USD, which we said we didn't really want to touch too much, right? Now gold, right? For this, we were talking about the potential for holding the order flow to continue to reach up into these highs. Obviously, price didn't end up playing out that way. I did end up personally catching some pretty good gold buys early on in the week. But they did not really result in us reaching up and above those areas of liquidity, at least not just yet, right? I was thinking about taking an attempt here. I didn't take it there. I ended up taking a trade as we got lower on the Monday, Tuesday, I believe. So Monday it was actually. So as price got back into this level, I was looking for the longs and did manage to catch a piece of this move to the upside, which was nice, right? But again, not the long-term move, and we kind of just added more to the overall liquidity, as we did that, right? So truthfully, the liquidity is still there that we were speaking about from last week, but again, not quite giving the big move to really reach up towards those levels. And we were saying the same thing with silver, that we could potentially hold this level, and unfortunately, obviously, price did not end up doing that, and we just barely got below, I believe, at the end of the week. Let's go and see what we had here. Yeah, so first, we had the sweep here, another buy up. This is where I ended up taking some positions, I remember. And then after that, we had price just continue to sell off, and we've created a new low. So I do wonder how this is going to play out. Again, we do still have liquidity here sitting to the upside. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Now, gold, silver, right? That's what we spoke about there. And then we had NASDAQ. So NASDAQ here, we were talking about the potential for this zone to end up giving us a reaction, right? We did get that pretty much beautifully. And then when price came back into the highs, we flipped. So let's go ahead and look at NASDAQ. So this is one of the main ones that we were looking at. Beautiful buy opportunity down here in this level. So I ended up taking 2 buys on this. One of them was over here, right? Actually, no way, I didn't take this one. So yeah, it was only this one here that I ended up taking. Got a good reaction to the upside. But again, we did end up reversing. But let's talk about what we saw here. So the 4-hour zone here, this institutional candle did get a beautiful mitigation play there, right? We saw the market again pretty much instantly after Wyckoff Sundays sold off, got back into that level, and gave a beautiful buy up towards those previous highs, right? So we do see about what is that? About a 70 pip move, 700 pip move. I'm not sure what that would be. 700 point for sure. But yeah, here we end up seeing the market just barely get above, as you guys can see better on the lower time frames, get above that recent high. So from there, we saw the reversals, right? Institutional candle printing there. We saw price come down. What I did look for was after price to take out this level to go ahead and look for longs. I did end up getting a good buy from that level and giving us, some profit for the week as well. But again, not the long-term move. And NASDAQ is looking quite interesting for this coming week. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. What else did we say here? Was US 30. We wanted to see price take these lows and then go higher. US 30 ended up, taking those lows, going higher, but then pretty much creating these, reactions from that same institutional candle that we also did speak about there. Oh no, we spoke about that on Monday then. But yeah, and then we had S&P, right, which the main zone I believe that we were looking at on S&P.
Oh, it looks like we're not going to get that push lower that we wanted.
Was right here, right? So this level here was what they were looking at. We did end up flipping our bias before we end up getting these shorts, eh? Because for weeks we've been talking about the potential for indices down, but price has been pretty much consolidating. But we've had the market come back up, get back into that level, create one more high, and so far we started to see the market come down, right? And look at this, those lows there, right? These lows that we have here on S&P are not looking very strong at all, right? Which we're going to talk about later on. So yeah, S&P there, and then BTC was the last one. All we want to see is just BTC get lower, reach down at least into this level, and if not, potentially even lower below the 58K level. I do think that, again, this is something that is a long-term buy. I just don't think it's necessarily the timing right here, right now, unless you got in, obviously, at the bottom of that current leg, like I was saying. But it's still good to hold, but not necessarily good to I would say, buy at those levels. Although if you're looking to hold them for years, it doesn't really matter, right? And as we can see with BTC, I mean, we pretty much just stayed inside of this range. Still not reaching towards this big wick, which I think will be a target later on. Could even happen sooner than we think. So we're going to talk about this here as well in a little bit. Cool. So that's pretty much the whole review of last week's Wyckoff Sundays. Let's go into this week for episode 25. All right. So we're going to start off with dollar. So dollar has seen a pretty significant change in the way that we have been looking at it. Just in the sense of that daily candle there, right? So this daily candle there for me is very, very interesting. It could be that this drive to the downside, here could be like the end of the reaccumulation that we've been waiting on. I think that's really what we're waiting on, is just for this entire consolidation to turn into that reaccumulation that's going to give us the new high, eventually to reach up on dollar. So I think that right now where we really are in the schematic is obviously more of like a signs of strength, right? So I think that the signs of strength here is eventually going to be met with a BU/LPS, right? And so we're just waiting to see when is it really going to be that bottom, right? We can see here that we have a daily candle, that has an imbalance lower than that. This is obviously going to be the most ideal zone, right? But if we're talking about something really being hidden in terms of, a potential buy up, I do think that this 4-hour zone, like we've been talking about for a while, could be, the reaction as well. So I think we're getting to really the end of the move, right? I think that, we're coming down, but right now we're really getting to the end of that push to the downside that we've been seeing pretty much over the entire month of July so far. We've been seeing a bearish dollar. And I think that now as we get towards the end of the month, we're going to see one of two things, right? Which is obviously going to be either one, and it could be this week, right? This push to the downside here get respected, a mitigation to come in, and then we can actually push up towards 102, or we're going to be seeing the daily imbalance get filled, and then we can go ahead and go to the upside. So my recommendation, as always, when we have two main zones like this and like this, is to take half and half, right? I think that this area here is a very, very high possibility. If we do reach there, I would get pretty aggressive. But, if we get back down into here, we show the 5 phases setup that we need, which would be obviously just a smaller time frame manipulation to help confirm that this low, has a higher potential to hold. Then once we get that manipulation down there, then I'll go ahead and look for 0.5% risk to go ahead and see price go long, and then look for the other half down here in this level. Personally, for me, even though we had those, again, that daily order flow that we've been speaking about, this daily candle, that daily candle, that daily candle, I do still see this as just a signs of strength. We're going to bring in some sellers. We're going to make people think that, all right, this is going to be the reversal of dollar. And then finally, we're going to finish taking out the high of this weekly level here, right, at 102 that we've been talking about since we were all the way down at 96, right? So that eventually will come. It's just about when. Currently when we look at the way that the daily candles have closed, there's honestly potential going both ways, right? We have this daily down candle here, which we could look at as that final sweep of all this liquidity. It definitely is a potential institutional candle. That being said, the candle printing directly after that is also a trap candle, right? So if we get this next daily move to really go and engulf, then perfect, right? That's going to be essentially probably the bottom $4. If we don't, right, then I think that again, maybe one more daily candle down with the trap candle there could give us that institutional candle that we want down in this area, right? But personally, for me, guys, honestly, I will be taking an attempt in this low $4. I do think that there's a good chance that the way that we held these lows and then the way that we swept it on multiple time frames, there's a decent chance that this can really end up being the bottom to go ahead and reach us towards 102. So I'm taking the chance here, right? You guys, so that's pretty much what I'm calling out is going to be price reaching into that level, right? Getting back into this 4-hour trap candle would be most ideal, and then give us that push up towards 102, right? And if not, then we'll be taking another attempt for a BU/LPS down here, right? But the reaccumulation is coming to a close, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and see if we can catch that on one of the currencies. So the question is, what currency are we going to use this on, right? Euro USD is one that I like a little bit less than the others. Which is different than normal, right? The main reason being that I've really been expecting this high here, this wick here to be taken, and we still haven't done that, right? When I look at the candle here as well on Euro USD that actually took, all this liquidity, it's mostly wick, right? Price does not close above that level, until we get the mitigation potential there, right? We do have kind of like this order flow type of idea that's been happening here, where we have like this internal sweep, right? But like it's just a wick on a lot of time frames, so not the most ideal for me to use even as we get lower, right? We only get an institutional candle here on the 5-minute, right? Every other time frame there has really become a wick. So seeing a lot of wicks isn't really the best for me. So I'm kind of wondering, I think that overall, like just like with dollar, I think this is a redistribution that we're seeing happen here, right? The question is just, is this high going to hold, or are we going to get another one, right? Even if dollar gets a scenario where we retrace back down here, right, and we don't actually take this low, but then Euro USD is taking the high, that's a scenario where I'll take Euro USD. Is if we have that divergence in price between the two. I do want to see Euro USD above 1.1488 before I consider shorting something like this. So I think we still have one more drive in the cards for this. Personally, I think that makes the most sense to me, and then we can go ahead and start to destroy the buyers down below, is my idea here for EU. And regardless of if dollar holds this or not, I think EU can have a potential to even diverge and take that high while dollar ends up holding the low, or we just get both to sweep, right? We're gonna have to really see what happens more in the week, but from a bigger time frame perspective, I think we are redistributing, and we're just gonna need another high, in my opinion, to really give this a good redistribution. And we start to look for basically essentially type 3 setups above this level. That's what's going to give us the potential push down. Now GU in a much better spot than dollar, to be honest. Than EU, right? All this liquidity. Liquidity here, 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 here. We did speak about the potential of all that being taken, and literally everything got taken all the way up until here. So this is a much stronger argument to actually look for the shorts, even though it's been like technically more bullish when we look at, obviously, the push to the upside here on Euro USD has not been that pronounced, but with GU it has been way more. But that being said, again, I think that sellers have been hurt a lot more on GU, and that's the type of pairs that I would like to, really hold in towards. So honestly, any type of pullback that we can see, right, definitely above these highs, I think is pretty much guaranteed. We will see GU reach above there. Potentially even above this one. But honestly, I'm going to start to look for things above this level, because this is also an institutional candle there. So that could end up even being an area of order flow, right? It's an unmitigated institutional candle. So this is going to be the first zone I'm really going to look for GU to hold. And as a whole, though, obviously, really the idea bigger time frame wise is that we probably won't pass 1.3563. That's my idea there for GU, right? And then we can start to head towards these lows here and head towards those buyers. to go ahead and give us that push towards 102 for dollar, like I've been saying, right? Now, AU also a potential good idea, right? We do have a little bit more liquidity above, but we also do have a nice institutional candle here. So I think it could be worth also looking into this. If GU starts to push back up, AU could also give us a zone here. This could kind of be like an idea of a type 1 setup where we have a previous manipulation. We create another manipulation inside of that zone with the beautiful institutional candle, right? So price going ahead and getting back into that level, right, to then give us the next drive down is going to be the idea there for AU, right? So I think a lot of these can potentially give that. NU I'm still not liking. I think we might still get a little higher, right? We might even reach towards here to then go ahead and give us the short, right, kind of based off of this level, right? So more so we're just looking at this whole zone to see NU get reactions from. I think we're getting close. I think we are getting close. USD CAD has finally started to see a bit of a push down. Again, just more so looking for reaccumulation plays here. We have a daily trap candle, again, just below. We'll see if that can end up being where this stops. But again, this isn't really my ideal pair to use. I think the XXX USDs are looking a lot better. And then we have USHEF, right? USHEF has got sweeps on both sides, so again, it's not going to be ideal. We got these equal lows here that got swept, and we got this high here, this external high that got swept as well. So USD Chef, I'm not too interested in. If we do manage to get down towards this previous reaccumulation, that would be the ideal scenario for me to even think about using, USHEF personally. So we'll see. We'll see how that ends up playing out as well. UJ as well, not going to be ideal for me, right? We're way too high up to even consider it. All right. Now, silver, okay, we're getting down into this area, surprisingly enough. I mean, might want to start picking up physical silver down at 53. I mean, how long, are we really going to be heading to the downside? I think we're still reaccumulating, and I think 53, I mean, if you guys haven't bought silver, it could be the next big zone for it. From a leverage perspective, it's tough to say right now. I do still think that we could push a little bit lower towards there now that we've seen that. Gold, even though silver has taken the low, gold has not yet taken it. We do kind of have like an institutional candle here at the bottom, but we also have big wicks over here. So, I mean, by the looks of it, it's not looking very good, for it. If we do end up, I do think that this is going to get cleaned up. I think that these highs will get cleaned up. Eventually, we're going to reach up towards 4226. The question is just how, right? And it's kind of difficult for me to, call out a buy, for example, in this level, given the fact that it basically created equal lows and we have a big wick to the downside. So we might have to wait for a new low, see if we get some institutional candles down there before we start to attack 42 to 20, basically, right? So gold and silver, both of those, not really ready yet by the looks of it. After we've taken those lows, not really the strongest lows that we just made on either of those, right? Equal lows and big wicks are not ideal for our buying opportunities. Last time that we were on the call, seeing something like that or even something like this was a lot better. I don't think we really see that anymore at all. So yeah, we'll see how that ends up going there for gold and silver. Now indices, all right. I mean, like really holding the market here for this long, right? We spoke about this 1 hour candle here on Wyckoff Sundays back in the beginning of July. So I'll probably be like 2 weeks ago. So probably like episode 23 or 22. We end up seeing the market hold this 1 hour zone. And we were talking about, again, like we'd probably end up seeing shorts from here. I believe like price was here and we traded up into there and sold off. Now we just tested that twice, right? Again, though, like the relatively equal highs bother me. But given the fact that they did it in a zone that could make sense to sell off, man, we might actually be seeing a sell-off come in here for NASDAQ, right? It could be the case. You said here, I've got a market gapped on NAS from the 5th of May this year. Oanda chart, the 15-minute not closed. I'm thinking to target sales down to. So yeah, let's go ahead and look here, 15 minutes. We got to look at the Oanda feed. I'm going to check if it's here either way. So we're going to go to the 5th of May. All right. 5th of May, 5th of May. Oops. Yeah, it looks like this might be the gap here that you're talking about. Again, definitely pretty smaller time frame wise, but we don't see price even tap into that even on the pullback. So let's see what we got here, bringing this over. We're close. Yeah, we're very close. Is that the same one? Yeah, it's not been mitigated. Yeah, not at all. Yeah, I mean, again, like one of the things that kind of brought us towards the NAS idea has been kind of this big wick here on the 4 hour, right? Big wick there as well on the daily, right? And that for us was really not giving us the most confidence that this was going to hold. But after we got some zones here and stuff like that, we did decide to take a bite at it for the first time in a long time, to be honest, calling out the buys there. You know, in my opinion here, guys, I think that the way that this current lows are looking, I mean, big wick there, big wick here, right? We're probably making equal lows here by the looks of it to me. So pullbacks as excuses to short on NAS by the looks of it to me. The current highs could be a zone. If we kind of look at that as the redistribution, quick push up, right, to then start to make its way down. But that's very lower time frame. So because of that, you know, it's tough for me to call that out on Wyckoff Sundays. We'll have to see closer to the day, like closer to Tuesday when we get on our live sessions in the morning, see how NASDAQ is looking. But yeah, I think that it's totally reasonable to look for your gap there to get filled, given it's right below some wicks. Yeah, we're definitely going to see that, I think, head towards that level. So for me, switching back to the shorts here, right? S&P as well, same thing. Switching back to the shorts, right? We got relatively equal lows sitting at this level. Distribution that just finished playing out really as well last week. So I think that we're going to dump here, right? Hopefully what we can get is kind of like an LPSY type of move to get back into the middle of the range, right? The most ideal would obviously be something like that, to then leave these lows, get up towards those highs, and then sell off, right? And then same thing for, you know, US 30, right? Wicks. We're probably just going to continue this by the looks of it. So maybe this indices sell-off is finally ready to happen, right? You know, we've been talking about it for too long, right? So we'll see. You know, but I do think that I'm not going to look for buys on indices. Now, last thing I'm going to talk about is BTC. There's some potential here, right? For distributions to be kind of playing out. I mean, these lows here are kind of intact for a little bit too long. We do have some pretty good candles to play off of, which is this level here. I'd be willing to take a bite at this today. You know, I think that if we get BTC to go ahead and, you know, kind of hold this order flow, might even actually make one more sweep, to be honest, even. But actually, by the looks of this, yeah, I mean, we do have a lot of liquidity buildup sitting there. But I was just kind of looking at these recent highs earlier. And, you know, I was considering the shorts here when we were up here and I didn't take them. And, you know, we kind of just went ahead and shot down towards new lows. So I think that this, you know, eventually is going to give us that push to the downside. So either one, we hold this current high that we created on Saturday, right? Maybe we kind of just take this liquidity, or two, all these equal highs, right? Whoops. And we end up holding the institutional candle that's on that 4 hour. Because I think you can make the case for this to kind of be that distribution, first, second, third, and then to eventually drive towards 60 and potentially even deeper. So long term, I'm bullish on BTC. Short term, you know, maybe we really deserve a pullback here to get back into those levels is what I'm thinking. And the way that some of these, you know, 4 hour time frame candles are looking, like we spoke about here, right? We respected this previous high. Could be just order flow to continue down, right? If we do break through, obviously 67, then this might be it, and we might be doing the buy to sell already. But you know, only time will tell here for BTC. All right, guys. So yeah, for me, I think look for BTC in this level, right? To sum up, I think the best opportunities will probably be on currency, right? Looking for Euro USD above here, right? Looking for GU above here, looking for dollar, right? Back into here. And we'll take that attempt to see if we can get a push back up towards 102. Those are really the main ones I'm looking at. Indices, I'm personally not too interested in just because we're already pretty far down there. So currencies and, you know, BTC, I think, right? Because if we're going to match assets coming down, I think BTC coming down, matching that would probably be best. And it's at a much higher point. So because it's at a much higher point, personally, I'd rather focus on Bitcoin than focusing on the indices here, guys. So that's my opinion for this week. All right. End of Wyckoff Sundays, episode 25. I hope to see you guys on the next session once again. And we will be going ahead and watching the final coming in about 30 minutes. So hopefully you guys enjoy the final, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Much love, much appreciation. Peace out, guys. Bye bye.